Hey guys, it's Rick in, and today I'm going to show you how to pull the top 5 list in XLeads. Not only am I going to show you the filters, I'm actually going to walk you through and share my screen and show you how you can easily pull the most motivated seller lists at your fingertips. So do me a favor before I get started, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button so more people can find out about XLeads and save money and blow up their motivated seller leads. Let's get into it. So here we are on the dashboard, and you got a couple options. You can either click property leads, or you can come down to here, what we call the lead pipes, and you'll find property leads. They both do the same thing. So this is where we are going to pull our leads. So we are hunting for motivated sellers. And what I'm going to do is show you how to pull a manual list, which I'll do first. And then I'm going to show you how you can actually have preset lists for you if you have little experience, and show you how XLeads does some of the thinking for you, but I want you to understand how XLeads work. So I'm going to pull the biggest and most important list I like to do, which is a high equity list. This is a list for people who usually do direct mail, who need a ton of volume for cold calling. This is typically going to be a big list. The minimum will be 5,000 and it can be up to 30 and 40,000. That's what it takes to scale wholesaling on a big level. But let me just show you how that list works. And then what we'll do is show you 4 other lists you can easily pull. So the first thing I'm going to do is you can put it in an area. So what I'm going to do is pull up a big county around me is Brevard County. So it's here in Florida. Now, so this is a market that I'm overly familiar with. So this is easy for me to pull. Now, if you see here, we initially get 247,000 records. That's a lot. To me, that's great news. Now we just have to filter down. So if you click see results, what I like to do, now you can start with the county, you can do it by zip code, you can do it by city. The more specific, the more tight your results get. Now you can also use this other little tool right here. You can zoom in, you can zoom out. And let me see where I'm at here. That's up by Cape Canaveral there. And Sebastian. So I like to use roads as a reference. So I-95 is a north-south traveling point through Florida. And then once I get my bearings there, I do an east and a west. So I'm going to zoom into an area I've always done really well in. And you click this little radial one. And so I'm going to subdivide my areas. Now, you can see here, this is on the map perspective. But if I click here, and then I can draw a radius area. And the reason why I like this is I can really pinpoint my areas. You see how I kind of curve it over? I'm going to come here, and then I come back and finish it up at the top. And now it's going to analyze all those property leads on there. And I went from 247,000 down to 30,000. Now, when I do Brevard, I break it down in 3 areas. I have a north, I have a central, and I have a south. You can actually take that same idea and apply it to your market, however you want to do it. This is how you learn to find motivated sellers. Now, when I run the initial ones, it's going to tell you what the LTV is. Remember, the lower that number, the more equity they have. A lot of you guys learned the other way where you did equity percentage. So LTV percentage is actually opposite of equity percentage, and I'll show you how that works. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and click filters. And I'm just going to, you can hit the reset button. I'm just going to start all over here. So you notice I don't want condos. I don't mind townhomes, and I'm going to leave them in there because they're the new affordable housing in Florida, but you make a determination in your market. Remember, all markets are local. You guys are the experts in your market. You know what works and what doesn't, and this is where you need to apply it. Now, if you see up here, you'll have the different filter areas from left to right. Now, in this one, I'm not going to use the sellability score. I'm going to show you in the last list we pull. So the first one I'm doing is click property values. And I don't want a property over $350,000 because I just never done a deal over $350,000 in all of Brevard County. So find out what your average price points, and you guys want to stay under it. Remember, you need to stay where there's the most demand, and most demand is going to be at your average median price or below. If you get above it, you tend to get outside of wholesaling. Not that you can't get a deal. So if you go, there's property features. So when we ran that, We are down to 18,417. Now, maybe your goal is to get this list down to 5,000, 3,000, whatever it is. You're going to have to play around with these filters to give you the best odds to find the best list for motivated sellers. Now, if you want to filter out bedrooms, if you want to do square foot, I'm wide open because I ain't buying these houses to live in, and nor should you. So we're looking for opportunities. So here's the type of owners I like to do. I like to do individuals, and I like to do trust, because usually when they're business and stuff, they're either landlords. There's another technique, and I'm going to show you that list a little bit later. So once I did that, now I'm down to 16,000. So the next part I'm going to show you on this is we click down to the next filter, which is ownership information. And this is a big deal. And I've done every which way to pull these lists. And you can do by last market sale date, by last sale date. The easiest way to filter these lists is decide how many years of ownership that you want your motivated sellers to have. And that's how we focus on them. So I like owners with at least 4 years or more. Some of you do 3. When I started, it was 10 years or more. And understanding you can craft these numbers to fit your marketing lists. So you can play around with this. So the minimum I usually do is 3 years, 4 years, maybe 5 years, maybe up to 7. But that means they've owned the property at least 3 years. It's going to get rid of all your flipped properties, stuff that's just recently we bought. And now we're down to 11,207. I never worry about owner occupied. I actually prefer if they live in it, because these people are just easier to buy their house. Landlords can be a little bit more challenging because they're disconnected from the properties. So the next one is loan to value. If you want to understand it, I'm going to pop this up there and you guys can read it. All you need to understand, it is the opposite of equity percentage. A loan to value takes the amount of the loan recorded on record and divides it by the tax assessed value. The smaller this number is, the more equity the owner has in it, which basically they have more of a cash position. What does that mean to you? It means you can negotiate a lot more. The smaller the LTV, the more equity they have in it. And that's all you need to understand it. If you get mixed up, play around with the numbers, because if you go from, say, 90% down to 10%, your numbers should shrink. I want you to test this theory out, and I'll show you how. So here's what I'm going to do. Is you can set it at like 0. So if I set it right now at, say, 50% equity, let's see, 50, and I run the numbers, we're at 11,207, and watch the bar on the bottom here. And that cuts us down to 8,500. Now, as the number goes down, that number should go down. If I go down to 40, let's watch the number. It should go down. That's 8,500, 7,400. So the smaller the number, the more equity they have. So a free and clear property would be a 0% LTV. Meaning there's no loan on the record. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in 60, which means they're going to have about 40% equity. My recommendation is the owners to have about 40% stake in the property. So for me to set that, I have to set the number at 60%. Remember, it is the opposite of equity percentage when you do LTV percentage. That is the fundamental difference you have to understand. In XLeads, we find we get better numbers by doing it. Just play around with it and practice it. If you're used to using other softwares, be very aware of this. So now we're down to about 9,800 leads. And now you can decide how much more you want to filter it down by. Now, you can find properties that are off the market. You can sort through foreclosures. There's so many ways that you can cut this. So one of the main ways, if your list is too big, so say I want to get this list down to 5,000. I only got enough money to do 5,000 leads. You've got to know what you can spend if you're doing direct mail, if you're doing a cold calling campaign. The easiest way to do it is you can cut down the property value. So when I do that, we went from 9,800, now we're down to 5,000. And guys, if you're trying to get 5,000, usually have a couple hundred leads because there's going to be duplicates in there. There's going to be stuff that gets scrubbed. So you're never going to nail the number perfectly. So you can change that. You can change the years of ownership, and then keep in mind on property features, you can filter through there. And then the main one is going to be the loan to value. Remember, the smaller the number, the more equity they have in the property. Now, once I have that, I can see the results, and you'll see right there that it will give you tags, and it tells you. So a board investor means they're just a long time owner, meaning they've owned the property a long time. and they are an absentee owner, which is usually going to be indicative of a landlord. So it'll have a high equity tag in it. And this is what I love about XLeads. It automatically tags stuff. Before, we used to have to do this on our own. And then basically, if you want to save all these leads, you would just click on this. You can select all and put them in there. You can do them by page. So if I select all, then basically it goes in my leads. And then from there, you have the choice to put it in your CRM. I don't like to put prospects in my CRM because you're only going to take probably a small percentage of them out of there and it will fill your database. What I like to do is download these, put them in a separate list. Either I send out direct mail. You can do a lead trace from there, which is the same as skip tracing. If you want to skip trace it, it's endless in what you can do. But find out what your account is allowed for. So we do anywhere from 10,000 a month. If you do the Pro plan, it's 15,000. If you do the X plan, you get 60,000 leads a month, which is really cool. Now, if you want to skip trace them, it's called lead trace in XLeads, and it's basically 7 cents. That's what it's cost us to get live real data. If you have a service that's maybe better, then you can export these leads very simply. So if I go under my leads right here, I have all these leads here. I can click to download them as a CSV file. One little hint, when you go to download them, let me click here. Well, you are going to click standard. And then if you are doing like the Flip with Rick offer postcard, make sure you click property details so you get the value, so we can actually make an offer to incentivize the seller to sell to us. If you want to learn more about that, go over to mailingmastery.com. So understanding you're going to click the overview and the property, and then you can click export leads. And when you go to export them, you will get a message up here. It takes a little bit of a time to download it, and you will get an email and a CSV file. Very important. They have a very long extension on these CSV files, over 40 characters. What you want to do is rename that file. My suggestion is have an abbreviation for the market you did it, the date you pulled it, and the type of list. So high equity, I put high equity. And you can even print out your filters. You can put your filters in there, but keep the characters under 40, because when you go to export these and upload them, Flip with Rick postcard, you have to have a smaller title because it can only hold, I believe it's got to be under 40 characters, and XLeads does a very long thing. It's real simple, guys. Just right click it and rename it. So that's how you pull a high equity list. You guys know the variables to play around with it. So if you're new to XLeads, my recommendation is get comfortable, understand how you did your previous pulls if you came from another software. And the only main thing you got to understand is the difference between LTV and equity percentage. LTV percentage is opposite of the equity percentage. So if you're used to pulling 40% or more equity, then you're going to put that number in as 60. What I'd like you to do is refer back to this video so you have a firm understanding. And guys, high equity list, it is a very special list. It should be your biggest list. And you learn every time you do a mailing, every time you do a cold call, and you can adjust your filters based on the feedback you get from your sellers. This is a list you want to constantly update and work. Guys, once again, you can pull it by zip codes. If you do that, if you pull it by a zip code, I'll show you right here. What you want to do is 34, and then you can you put a comma after it. And that's how you're going to pull zip codes. So if you're doing high equity or any other type of list, it's real easy to do that. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of show you like the little bit of the cheat way. So if you're new to XLeads and you're new to wholesaling, this is a perfect platform because XLeads accommodates a brand new investor all the way up to the most sophisticated investor like me and Zach. Why? Because it grows with you as you go. I'm tired of people always constantly opening different programs and softwares and trainings. Finally, you can do everything in one platform. So what I want to do is go over, and I am going to go back here to my dashboard, and I'm going to go under property leads. And the first thing I want to do is I want to clear all this out. So for me to clear it out, I'm just going to cancel it, remove all leads. Guys, remember, if you are using prospect lists, which is what we're doing today, pulling lists, I don't put them in their CRM till they have interest in talking to us. That way, I only deal with the right people. Now, you can manage your lists within here. It's very important you label them. I will show you in another video how to organize your list within XLeads, but there's prospects lists, and then you have your lead pipeline for your wholesaling business. Those are customers you're currently working with in some stage of your pipeline to write an offer and buy the property. And that's what a good CRM is. It keeps you on task and lets you deal with thousands in thousands of leads without you losing your mind. The next one to show you is we're going to go back to the dashboard, and I'm going to go back to property leads. And I'm going to show you. Now, if you go up here and where would you like to invest in, just click that. You'll notice on the right-hand side, there is preset list done for you, and they've already done it. So if you want to get an education on how to do it, if you pull that question mark, it will give you the definition of how it's pulling the information. These are what we call preset filters. These are for people that are a little bit more inexperienced. Maybe you're going to a new market and you don't want to guess. XLeads have done the proven criteria filters to get the best type of absentee owners, tired landlords, pre-foreclosures, and everything else that goes with it. I want to find vacant properties. Now, if you want to know what vacant properties are, hover over this question mark and it tells you. This comes from the United States Postal Service. And when they put those little cards in the mailbox, the address gets registered through, I believe, HUD services, through USPS. Don't ask me how they get these lists, but they get them and they're actually very effective. Now, remember, some people are snowbirds. Some people are selling the properties. Not every property is vacant is a great lead. So what I like to do is I do not like properties that are on the market that are vacant for obvious reasons. So I'm going to go over here to exclude, and you see this active listing. If you hover over it, check it out. Anything that's on the MLS, it's potentially going to scrub for you. It's not perfect, but it does cut out a lot of people you don't want to deal with. For the most part, if you're starting out and you're new in this business, you do not want to be going on MLS trying to bid on properties. You can't get them assigned. They want big deposits, and you never get to talk directly to the seller, and you're typically paying close to market retail price. That is not wholesaling. I don't teach that. So if I click on here, active, so it would help if I put in a city. So if I do say Port St. Lucie, which once again is one of my markets, and I like to show you because I work in this data all the time, and you'll see it searching down here. It's going to come up with a number. So we come up with 1,024 properties that are considered vacant and they are not on the market. And then what happens, it will walk you through on each one of them. You make a decision. You can download this list. You can skip trace it, which is basically if you wanted to do this. So if I click on this one right here and say, that sounds interesting. Here's the cool part, guys. I've already showed you. It gives you kind of a retail value for it. It tells you what the property you rent for. And this wholesale number, that's an ideal number. If you can get it under contract at that number, you're usually doing very well. Don't use it as a, hey, if I don't get it for this number, I'm not going to get it. Most of my contracts are above that number, so you guys don't think you're crazy. But if you get it at that number and the repairs are in check, then it's usually a great deal. Remember, this thing cannot see what the repairs on a property, so you're going to have to use your brain on it. But it'll give you different scores. We're going to go over that. So if I add this to my leads and say I go over to my leads, now if I want to get their phone number, I just click this button right here and it's going to spit it out. It's 7 cents. Boom. You guys can do the entire list. You can do one-off properties. It's extremely valuable. Guys, vacant properties have a high probability of having some sort of motivation to sell them. Don't overlook the vacant properties. It works. And so we basically got 1,000 leads on that one. I'm going to reset this. And that's how you do vacant lists. Let's move on to the next list. So if I go back to my dashboard and just say, let's just pick another market. Let's go into property leads and let's do Atlanta, Georgia. Now I know this is big, but I want to show you the power of some of these lists. So once again, I'm going to make sure I exclude active listings. And I'm going to show you another one. I've heard other people talk about it, but I want to explain it. It is called the zombie property. Now, what the zombie property does, if you go and look underneath of this, is basically a property that is an active pre-foreclosure and is being labeled as vacant, just like I showed you on that previous list. Meaning there's a high probability that somebody wants to sell that house. If you can connect with them, if there's equity in it, that's your job as a wholesaler. The bigger the problems you guys solve, the better you do. I want you to use XLeads as a tool to find the highest and most motivated sellers. So I believe I have excluded on it. And now I'm going to hit include, and I'm going to go down and hit zombie properties. Now, Atlanta is a pretty big city. So remember, these are pre-foreclosures that are basically vacant. Now, it's a small list. And the reason why I like it, it's very niche oriented. So if you're like a door knocker, this is golden. Listen, I'm not telling you to door knock, but that's how I started out doing it. If it is legal in your neighborhood and you feel safe and you do it during daylight hours, guys, it's powerful. So let's click results and then look at all these tags. Look at this, guys. This is amazing. I got right off the top, I've got a bored investor, which means they're just a tired landlord. Pre-foreclosure, it's vacant and a zombie property. Look at this one below it. Absentee owner, bored investor. I don't know why it says cash buyer. That might not be right. Pre-foreclosure, tax delinquent, vacant, and zombie property. I'm adding that one right away to my leads. I'm going to come over here. I can either download it. I can send them a piece of direct mail on this list. You could do 145, very manageable for some of you guys that do this in-house. Or why not just click lead trace, go ahead and skip trace them and give them a call. Remember, you have to have a lot of leads. The whole purpose of XLeads is for you to easily pull it, work within it, and then once you get a lead, you can put it in your CRM and work it from the day you pulled the list as a prospect to the day you dispo it. XLeads gives you all the tools to do that. So guys, while we stay in Atlanta, let's move over to our next list, which I'll show you on our preset board. Remember, to pull these lists up, just come up here and hover, and then they'll come down just like this. And so now we're going to go down to what we call the bored landlord. Yeah, that's right. I said the bored landlord. So it's called bored investor here. And if you look at this, it'll give you a description of what it is. And so what it is tells you they've owned the property at least 10 years and there's no record of transfer of date, which means the ownership predates the county records. And the bottom line is it's an absentee owner that has not changed ownership in at least 10 years. These people are prime. Now, they're a little bit more challenging because I call them kind of seasoned professional landlords. And you've got to understand that going into it. So let's just do Tampa, Florida. So if I click on there, and by the way, XLeads has access to all counties, regardless if it's a disclosure or non-disclosure state. So you don't have to worry about that hassle. A lot of softwares only will do it in states where there is disclosure and you're out of luck on the non-disclosure. XLeads fixes that for you. So there is 18,000 guys. That is a lot. Now, what I can do is I click on there. Remember, this is general. What I would do if I was in Tampa, I would probably draw a map and narrow it down to my area. Remember, you can click the map and draw the radius. You can also click the satellite view. I find it more confusing. Let me switch back to the regular one. And then if you want to add more filters on this, these are the current filters you have on here. So I'm going to remove condos because I don't want them there. So remember, all your filters are going to be on your left-hand side. They're big and bold in the square shapes, whatever it is. I didn't pass geometry, but you can go in there and click. So even if you didn't want to do apartments, which I love multifamily, anything like that, as you eliminate them, it will reduce each one of them. And you just go through that. Now, if you want to add more filters, like say you don't want a property over 400,000, this is where I add it. So you can use the preset filters and add your personal criterion to pull the best motivated list through XLeads. Let's pull that and see what happens. We're at 12.9 and it is going to go down to 8,500. Now, you can do loan to value on it. Remember, the smaller the number, the more equity they have in it. If you want to just pick like only 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. If you don't like a pool, you can exclude a pool. Guys, don't filter too much because remember, our job is to resell these contracts to cash buyers. We're not living in them, so we're not shopping on it like our MLS. This is basically how you pull the board investor report to get the best list. And guys, this is really the same thing as what we refer to as like the tired landlord. And a lot of times people are getting retiring, they're tired, they don't want to deal with it anymore, and the property's a little bit run down and they don't want to deal with it. And they'll usually leave you a little bit of a deal. You just got to connect with them, build rapport. If you want to learn how to do that, go over to freewholesaling.com. Now, I saved the last one because I think it's kind of neat. I want to show you how this works. Now, if you've signed up with us and you have the AI feature, depending on what plan you have, usually it's set per zip code. Now, the reason why I don't want you to buy counties and states, because honestly, guys, you don't need to waste the money on it. Theoretically, in 1 year, you can get 12 different zip codes. The reality is, if you got to cross the entire country or state, it would be very expensive And honestly, you don't need that in the beginning. You just need to get deals going. So keep that in mind. There is a cost for this information. And what it does is pulls and aggregates this data. And it does a very fancy list stacking, and then it gives them an algorithm score. Let me show you how this works. So I'm going to put in my zip code, and then you should have your hottest zip code in there. Just going to share you mine because I've been here for 21 years and everybody knows it anyway. So I put in that. Now what I want to do is get rid of all this stuff because I don't care on that. So I am running the 34953 and I click results on here. Now, guys, it gives you values and everything, and this is the parameters that it's in. But what I want to do is go over to filters. And remember this section I showed you up here, sellability scores. This is for retail. We don't care about that. Rental, maybe if you're a landlord. But guys, we are wholesalers. We're looking for a wholesale score. So this goes from 0 to 999. So you know right off the bat, I got to set it at 500 or higher. And what it does is the more data stacking, meaning if it's in pre-foreclosure, tax delinquency, if the property's vacant, if it's zombie, the more it stacks, the higher the score goes. It's actually really simple. And this data is run every 24 hours. It updates with court records, county records, and it's good. Now, remember, it's just pointing you in the direction. It's not going to guarantee you a deal, but those of you who like to pull really niche lists, you like to cold call, you like to do reverse driving for dollars, this is spectacular. Honestly, I've never seen an easier way to do it. Before, you'd pay $500-$600 for a piece of software to stack lists. This thing does it automatically. You don't need to upload your list or anything. So right now, it's going to analyze 11,470 pieces of property, and I'm going to ask for a 500 score or more. So I'm going to click that, and then I am going to go back to my filters. So when I ran the filters, a 500 score or more showed 1,567 properties. Now, I don't want to call that money. I want to maybe get it down to 100. I want to get a deal today. Maybe if you go in a virtual market, this is a great way to test it out, guys. Like this to me is the ultimate tool to find out if you can find motivated sellers. Because honestly, with this many data stacking points, I want to find the highest probability. So guys, what I'm going to come in here and what you need to do is set a minimum number. So we're going to start out at 500. So 0 to 500. Obviously, the max is going to be 999. You can put it in there or just trust it to do it. And if I watch the number on the bottom, we went from 11,000. Now we're down to 9,775. So 500 is, it's average. So what you can do is just keep bouncing that number up. So let's go to 700, which is where I like to start to see where the numbers shake up. So when you get to 700, now we're down to 185. Do you see that? I want to get a list of 100. I want a deal today. Let's push it up. Let's do 800. See where the number comes up. This is really cool. So I'm at 115. Let's go 900. This is like DEFCON 5, right? And at 900 in the 34953 zip code, I got 109 properties. Let's do 915 because I want to get it down and see if we can nail 100. Let's go 950. See what happens, guys. So it kind of bounces all over the place, but like if you do like a 900 or higher, I've got a result of 109. And if you go through this, the more tags it has, the higher the probability. They're telling you that these are a high probability, and here's the scores. Here's the really cool part. On your right-hand side, it'll give you a score. It's going to give you the highest scores first. These are the most important. So if I want to rip through 50 phone calls, what I'm going to do is click up here. I'm going to select the first 25 right off the bat. I'm going to put it in my leads as an example. And then right off the bat, I'm just going to go through and I am either going to skip trace them. I'm going to export them. However you want to do it. If you want to click them all and you want to skip trace them, you can just click that and it will go up there and give you the phone number. You can call them direct. Guys, these AI scores, listen, something at a 950, it's telling you there is a high probability it could be a great wholesale deal. Remember, it's just data. You've got to go out and do the work. You've got to call these people and you got to use the skills we teach you at freewholesaling.com to put the best motivated seller list together today. So in short, today, I've gone through 5 different types of lists you can pull easily and readily in XLeads. If you check the first list, it was a high equity list. I showed you how to do it actually by hand. Guys, Go in there, play around with the filters. If you have any questions, please send us a message, support@xleads.com. And then every Saturday, we do a tutorial at 10 a.m. We walk you through live. You can go on YouTube and click on that live, and you can also see previous recorded ones on there, guys. Hey, are you using XLeads to get the best motivated sellers list? I believe you should. Check it out. Go over to XLeads.com. This is Rick Ginn, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.